I've been seeing a lot of patients with low back pain recently, and I thought I would address this because it goes into the I3 model that we went over a couple weeks ago. So we're talking about what causes low back pain. Well, what is our spine meant to do? What causes low back pain? And then what can we do about it, right? So answering these three questions is pretty important, especially if you're like, oh man, I tweaked my back, like not cool. So we're going to talk about, hey, right, what is it meant to do, what causes it, and what can we do about it? So, right, what is our back meant to do? Like, what's the purpose of our low back, the middle of our back? What is the job of it? And number one, it's meant to produce force, right? Our spine, our back muscles are meant to hold us up, hold us erect, and right, we can load it up, we can squat, we can deadlift, right? It's meant to keep us in a certain position. Posture's an okay word to use, but I like position a lot better. It's meant to keep us in a good position while we're moving because, right, if our spine's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then we're in an inopportune position. And especially when we try and do something, right, try and squat or deadlift in an inopportune position, we're rounded or hyperextended, it's not going to go very well. And you can see how, hey, this might cause us to have some back pain. So our spine is meant to produce force, right? And right, the old physics equation, I'm sure I don't want to bring back any memories of physics class, but right, force equals mass times acceleration. So I can push here and I can produce a lot of force, but not actually move anything. Right, there's no time, there's no velocity component here. I'm not moving anything. Right, but I can produce a lot of. I'm pushing mass into this, and there's that acceleration component, even though nothing's moving. So I can produce a lot of force as our spine muscles do and our core does, right, without actually moving. So I can load my back up, keep a nice neutral spine, and still produce a lot of force. The second thing our back does, which is right, we move. Second thing that it does, hey, it allows us to move. We're mobile in our low back and our thoracic spine. The low back's meant a little bit more for stability, but still, it has the potential to move, and right, we move it all the time. If you do a cartwheel or a somersault, a somersault. You're moving your back, right? You're rounding it. If you bend forward, touch your toes, right? You should be rounding your back, right? You're not deadlifting anything. There's no weights. Totally safe to move your back, man, right? If I rotate here, I can do this pretty fast. Totally cool. So what are some examples of us moving our back? Well, I gave you a couple, but right, golf. This is right. I suck at golf, but swinging a club. The club doesn't weigh much. It's not heavy, right? There's not much mass to it. You can move the heck out of that thing, right? You can swing the heck out of it, and your back responds very, very well. Running, there's a little component of rotation involved, not a huge amount, but still, when we run, right, we're not producing that much force on our back. There's a little bit of rotation that's involved with it, and you get the gist of it, right? Just being able to move your back is important. Swinging a baseball bat, right? There's a lot, right? Baseball, there's a lot of rotation involved. Hitting a baseball, like swinging a bat, we're mobile. We need to move. Right, and right, there's displacement here, and keep that word in mind. Displacement is huge, right? When we talk about what causes low back pain, or just back pain in general, we're going to talk about why these two things, being forceful and moving and having displacement, being mobile, in the low back, they cannot happen at the same time. And this is what causes low back pain. And when these two things occur at the same time, not cool. And this is what somebody deadlifts or tweaks their back, even when running, whatever the sport is, and you tweak your back, this is the culprit behind, I tweaked my back, right? Not cool. This is the culprit behind it. Why do we actually have low back pain? So, all right, what causes low back pain? Too much power. We produced too much power in our back, right? In our spinal muscles. There's too much. Not force generation, right? Because force is good, we can produce force. Not displacement, we can produce displacement, but what I said here, right? It cannot occur at the same time. When power, we just simplify the formula, right? This is the actual formula for is work over time. We take time out, don't care about that for now. Power is force times displacement, right? So it's the combination of what our back does. Our back can be forceful, it can be mobile, but it should not do both at the same time. Because, right, if we multiply these together, it's going to give us a bigger number. So let's review really quick what our back can do, right? Our back can be forceful, so we can squat, so we can maintain a good spinal position, we can deadlift, we can maintain a good spinal position, and we can be mobile, right? We can golf, we can run, we can hit a baseball. Running's not the best example, but golfing and baseball, swinging a baseball bat, another great example of, hey, we can be mobile in our back. But imagine we're swinging a 100-pound bat, right? It's a lot of force, or a good amount of force, and also a lot of motion in the back. So imagine, right, just a normal baseball bat, you swing it, you're like, this feels good, right? There's some force involved, but nowhere near the amount with the 100-pound bat, and you're going through the same amount of displacement. So if we just do some quick math here, 1 times, let's say, displacement, we'll just say 20 random units, you'll get 20, or 100-pound bat times 20, you'll get, that is a huge number. Sorry for that horrible handwriting. That's going to be, that's 2,000. Like, that's huge. Right, this is just a quick, right, as if it's, right, I don't know how the bats weigh, they're not that heavy, but times, even if we did 50, it's still going to be 1,000, which is a huge more factor than 20 here. So, right, this is a lot more power on the back, 1,000, than compared to 20. This is a huge amount of power on the low back, and just on the back in general, and this is why people tweak their back, right? 1 times 20, 20, 50 times 20, 1,000, that's a huge difference in numbers. Whatever the unit you want to put there, it doesn't matter what the unit is. It's just an example here that, hey, we're producing a whole lot more power on the back than if we just swung the light bat versus the 100-pound bat. Another example could be, we'll take deadlifting, right? So we take deadlifting here. I cannot slur my handwriting. We take deadlifting, for instance. Let's say you're going to deadlift 200 pounds. I'll put it down here. So 200 pounds deadlift. And let's say our displacement is, you say you do it the right way. We'll say a displacement of 2, right? Whatever that displacement number means, 2. So 400 pounds of power. Okay, let's say, hey, this is the example of you keep your spine perfectly neutral when you do the deadlift. You brace the right way, everything's great. But now we deadlift 200 pounds. And let's say we displace, let's say, hey, we round our back. We try and deadlift, our back rounds as we're coming up. Let's say now this number is going to be, we'll give it a 6. It displaces just a little bit. So now this number is 1,200 for our power unit here, right? Let's say we barely displace 400 compared to here. We displace whatever that unit is, maybe millimeters of displacement of flexion or extension of the back here. Or flexion is in our example, right? It exponentially increases, guys. So this is why people tweak their back. When they're deadlifting, when squatting, if you have a butt wing, the same thing can apply if you're squatting 200 pounds. And let's say this is even 1, right? You do it perfectly, nothing happens, right? Bam, this is 200. All of a sudden you have a huge butt wink here. When you get down to the bottom of your squat, your pelvis dumps, your back rounds, you have a huge amount of displacement. Maybe say this goes up even more. Let's say you have a huge amount of displacement, 10 random units here. 2,000, man. 2,000 units for power. That's huge. That's a lot of power on that low back. This is why we tweak our backs, right? This is why, right, we have disc bulges, we have muscle spasms around when we have a disc bulge, or our joints in our back get locked up. This is why this happens. This is why you have low back pain. One more example. We'll take a different approach here. Maybe not to the extremes, but low back pain when you run. Let's talk about this. I'm gonna take care of. Let me whip these up. Take care of these guys. Right, too much on the board. Let's take this example. Let's say when you're running, your hips are tight, and you're going to hyperextend your back. When you extend your leg back, all of a sudden, your hip can't move anymore. So your back does one of these, and it hyperextends every single time. So we're gonna do, let's say, every time you run, it's gonna be probably a low unit. So let's say our force unit is, let's say, I don't know, we'll do 100 pounds. Let's say you're pretty light, and whatever it is, 100 pounds. Let's say normally, right, there's going to be a little bit of spinal motion there. We'll give it a 3. So typically, let's say, hey, you have 300 pounds. This is probably too much, but let's just for the sake of the example, 300 pounds on your back every time you step on one side. It's probably too much, but let's leave it. Let's just for the sake of the example. Same thing, right? 100 pounds, no difference. But now you have a lot of extension in the back, right? A lot of extension force in that back. Now this unit goes to, we'll say 7, right? Your back is moving more than it should because the pelvis is rotating. Or it might be dip it forward, it might be dropping to one side, it might be rotating one way. Either way, you're moving more than you should. So 100 times 7, now we're at 700 force units, pounds, whatever you want to say there, right? And right, we didn't change the load that's on that we're running with, right? We didn't strap on a rucksack and say, hey, I'm just going to go ruck and add 20 pounds to my back, because that would increase this. But guess what? Just because you moved, that's a little bit more than twice as much. Even if we did 6, let's make this 6. You move twice as much in your low back because of how tight your hips are. 600 pounds in your low back compared to 300 pounds. That is huge, especially with the amount of steps we take, right? The hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, depending on what race you're doing. That is huge. And every time, more force, more force, more force, more power on that low back. As the force is the same here, the 100 pounds, right? I know there is some of that acceleration part of it. I know I don't want to, if you're a physicist or if you're very fluent in physics, I don't want to offend anybody here, but right, let's just keep it pounds for now. But this is a great example of, hey, this is why you have low back pain, especially when you're running. So what can we do about it? Well, go back to the I3 model. We have to make sure that we're moving the right way, right? So how are we moving? Our skill, our mobility, and also our strength, right? We need to be strong enough to handle the forces, right? Need to be forceful. That's basically our strength here. Mobile, need to be able to move, right? We need to be able to displace properly. And the skill, this is huge when it comes to low back pain. We need to be able to move the right way when we're deadlifting, running, squatting. So that way we could be forceful and we could be mobile, but we can't be both at the same time in the low back. Right? We have to choose one. You cannot choose both, because when you choose both, right, we get these huge increases in the power and the load that is on the low back, the power that's on it. And when that happens, we tweak our back, we blow out discs, and our muscles spasm, and we tweak our back.